Peace and blessings be with you. I'm on location this week, the second day of February. I'm in the WAMI office. WAMI stands for Watauga, Avery, Mitchell, and Yancey counties. This is a nonprofit that does amazing work for this area of the high country of Western North Carolina. And I'm here at the office of Allison Jennings. She is the
Director of Development.
Director of Development. And she's invited me here to have a great conversation. And Allison, in celebration, has said yes to be our new Vice Moderator for 2022, which means that she's actually excited because next year in 2023, she'll be the moderator. And then our new structure is then she'll stay on as the past moderator. That gives us some consistency. So what gets you excited? We're going to have the first, or technically the second meeting of the 2022 council. What gives you hope or excitement as we move into 2022?
I think it's the same hope and excitement that I had on the first time I came into the church. And I needed that church. And I do shout out, as always, to Becca Kennedy, for Becca Saunders. Sorry, Becca. She is her own person. So Becca, actually, I was going to a small little Southern Baptist church in the Valley, and Becca knew that's just not me. And I was just learning that wasn't me. And she invited me to High Country UCC, and I'm thinking, where have you been all my life? This is great. And growing up in big churches, I know that High Country UCC has the ability to be the church that is there for that community. I know it. I mean, I want to see us grow, and that, in my opinion, that means membership, and that means funding. It does mean funding. If we want to do the programs that we want to do, if we want to help send kids to camp, if we want to send money to Hospitality House so they can house someone, if we really, really, really want to impact the community, well, we need to do some things. And we need to pay our mortgage off. We need to generate some income. So we don't need to generate income so we can necessarily hire more people, put in stained glass windows, and so forth. I mean, in my opinion, but we do need to reach out to the community. And by doing that, we will grow. All those other things will happen by letting the community know that's the church to call. That's the church that I can go to if I really want to go to church and I don't know what I believe and I don't know who I necessarily identify as. And so that's what excites me.
Yeah. So what did the retreat offer you when we...
I loved spending the day with that group of people and learning from them, learning more about how our church operates and what we see for the future. I did enjoy the Enneagram portion of it.
So when we did the Enneagram, and then Liam came and talked about the parts of us, and that was really the core of that retreat. We've got this new relational covenant. In the last year and a half, 2 years, we've become a wise church where we're really delving into what does it mean to be welcoming, inclusive, supporting, and engaging of all people, regardless, and specific with a mental illness, mental disease. But really, that's one part of being open and affirming. And oftentimes when people hear the word open and affirming, they just think it's that sexuality piece, but it's really not. It's really about people with physical disabilities. When open and affirming really came on the stage, churches started actually taking out a pew here and there to make sure that a wheelchair could come in. They started making their chancel wheelchair accessible, as opposed to having to walk 3 steps up to be able to speak at the microphone. We brought the microphone down so that we had accessibility. And so this idea of being open and affirming, being welcoming to all, this extravagant welcome. I've heard the word aspirational, because we don't always get it right. However, we want to continue to stay on that journey. And so for us to put into the leadership retreat specifically to an Enneagram, how do you think that connects with our next part of our journey that we're called as a church?
So with the Enneagram, it helped me to see how differently we all are and how we're going to approach things, and understand one another. We're not all the same. We're not all robots. We're not all checking, I believe this, I believe this, I believe this, and we all believe that. Yes, every one of us believes that, and we're going to move forward. It was the opposite. It was like, look, we're all very different.
Yeah.
And we're going to take those differences, and we're going to welcome people with differences, and we're going to welcome them big time, and we're going to grow.
What do we do with our uncomfortability with those differences? Or the fear that comes with those differences? The fear that maybe I don't know how to welcome those differences or be in relationship with those differences.
So I think we just need a constant reminder of acknowledging that we all have biases. And sometimes that's hard to say. I mean, I remember the first time someone told me that you're a privileged white girl, and I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, yeah, years later, yeah, I am. And then I'm uncomfortable sometimes. I'm not. But I will never forget the day that I was sitting in our church, and she's passed away. Her name was Victoria. She died last year, but Victoria came in covered in paper towels because she was protecting herself from the government. She's severely schizophrenic, and she was coming to ask for money. And I've seen her all the time at Hospitality House, but somehow having her walk in my church, I mean, I had a little bit of a breakdown. I remember Renee Bowman said, "Tamara, can I handle this, Allison?" But I felt like I'm like, this was my space. I did not want those people coming into my space, and I had to deal with that. I had to, question why did you feel that way? So I'm just I'm very, very glad to be a part of such a great community. Just so proud to be a part of this church. Why I'm 55 years old, and it's probably why in the last 5-6 years that I'm the happiest I've ever been, because I feel genuine.
Cool. A few announcements to be aware of this week.
The Building and Grounds Committee will have a brief meeting after church.
So the Building and Grounds Committee this year, we have 3 people in charge of that, where normally we have one person, which is just a testament to the grace and the love people have for our Building and Grounds, and 2, to the need and the efforts there. And so Mike Jennings is really doing a lot around making sure the building has what it needs. Sarah Hogan is helping to coordinate people and the jobs that are needed based on what Mike is offering. And Sharon Jensen is the link to council to make sure that council knows what's going on and how we can be supportive of that ministry. And it is a ministry, right? So to keep our Building and Grounds hospitable and welcoming and safe and efficient, that is a ministry for where you're providing space for someone who needs it. And speaking of that, we upgraded our internet.
Okay. Yes.
Because we were going to be a learning hub. And also because we live stream from there now a lot through our worship service. Know this, that we have space available. And if you know of somebody that needs an office space or needs to rent space for a funeral, for a marriage, for a retreat, for a conference, we want to be that space. So don't hesitate to start broadcasting that, because that is a ministry that has been given to us. And as we understand our Building and Grounds as ministry, know that we need to communicate that to the wider world.